Hello, good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are. I hope you are having a good day. Welcome to the second episode, we'll say, of A Random Wheel Picks My Palette. And I could not be more stoked with what it picked today because it picked the Harvest of Souls palette by Fantasy Cosmetica, which is my personal favorite palette they have ever released. I think it is absolutely phenomenal, and I'm so excited to get to play with it again. So I wanted to try this brush that they had released. I got it, I think, on sale. It's an EO4. It's kind of a weird shape. So I am going to start with the shade Sacrifice, and I am going to try to map out the shape that I'm going for, which is going to be, I would say, kind of a winged out shape. And I'm going to start by bringing that up along my lower lashes just to make sure that it's connecting to the top part of my lid without making any weird shapes, since I turn 40 next year and I have aging hooded eyes, so I just need to make sure that I can see things when I'm looking straight ahead with my eyes open and my eyebrows relaxed. And I will say I do like this brush. I'm not entirely sure I'm using it the way it's intended to be used, but I do like the shape I got using it. So I am just going to speed this up a little bit for the second eye, since I am just doing the same thing, just a little bit harder to make sure I have the same shape going on as the first eye. And this second eye that I do, it's always the eye that if one of them is going to give me trouble, it's going to be this one, which is why I always start with the other eye. And my eyes are quite watery on this day. I know, I'm kind of jealous of people who can do their makeup multiple times in a day, because if I took this off, there's no makeup going on over it, because my eyes would strike. There's no question. I don't know how to say the name of this shade, but it is like a deep teal, kind of leaning towards blue, and I'm going to use that to deepen up the shade Sacrifice. And I'm just going to go back and forth with the two brushes and make sure that they're blended to a spot that I am happy with it. And just taking a clean blending brush and focusing that blend on the lower lash line just to make sure it's kind of nice and clean. And then I'm going into the shade Poison, which is, I think, my favorite matte in the palette. It is just the most stunning shade of green, and I am going to pack that in my inner corner and start to bring that up in the innermost part of my crease. I'll put a little bit on the lid as well, just so there's something there. And I will also drag a little bit on the lower part on the inner part of my lower lash line. Yeah, that's what I was going for. But yeah, I'm just going to spend some time packing this on and just blending the edges a little bit. I don't want to blend too much because I don't want the brightness of this shade to disappear. Next, I'm taking the shade Patience, which is a pastel purple, and I'm just going to take that on a kind of fluffy brush, and I am going to start to blend that over a little bit of that Sacrifice shade, and I'm going to bring it towards the inner part. I'm not going to blend too much with Poison because purple and green don't really like to mix, but I will overlap them just slightly, but I won't blend them to a point where they are going to get muddy. I just want that purple in that inner part of the crease. And now prepping my eyes for shimmers, I am going in with Shine On by Clionadh Cosmetics and Millie from Bad to the Brow, and I am just going to place that over most of my lid. I won't take it all the way to the inner corner or all the way to the outer corner. I mainly want to focus on that middle part and just make sure I overlap with the mattes a little bit. The first shimmer I am going in with is Immortality. It's a deep blue shimmer. It's got some absolutely stunning multicolored shimmers in it, and I'm going to keep that focus mainly on that outer part of the lid. I'm not going to drag it too far in. I'm mostly keeping it over where that blue matte is. And then I'm going to flip that brush over and I'm going to go in with the shade Ensnare. And I'm going to put that over, I would say, until about the inner third of my lid. So I will take that most of the way in. And I will make sure to overlap it with Immortality a little bit just so they're blended together nicely. Now I'm going into the shade Obsession, which is a gorgeous green shimmer. And I'm going to put that on the innermost part of my lid. I'm not going to drag it up into the crease at all. I'm just going to overlap a little bit with Ensnare so it's blended nicely. However, this was not the color that it's not what I wanted it to be, so I decide to top it with a different color. So I'm going to dip into the shade Eternal and put that on top of where I had Obsession. And I think that lightened it to a point where I was happier and I could still see some of the green coming through. I think I like that shade Obsession better when I can put it in the middle or outer part of my lid. I didn't like how deep it was in the inner part. And just going over with Ensnare to make sure everything is blended together nicely. And now I'm going to go into the shade Souls, and I'm going to spray that on a little detail brush, and I'm going to put that on that inner part of my lower lash line and blend it with Poison and the blue magenta combo that is on the outer part, and just make sure that it's blended together nicely. I really like how that looked there. That was my favorite shimmer last time I used it. There's quite a dip in it already, and I'll just go over that with a little blender brush just to make sure everything's meshed together. And going back into the Blend Bunny Juicy Cheeks palette, this has been one I haven't been able to put down lately. I'm going to go into the shade Raw, which is a little more muted, and I thought it would go nicely with the shade Sacrifice. So I'm going to put that all over my cheeks and a little bit over my nose, as I like to do. For my waterline, I went in with OK Boomer by Melt Cosmetics. And for highlighter, I am using Rainbow by Dieverune again. This is quickly becoming my favorite highlighter, I think. It's so beautiful, and I love the multicolor sparkles, and I love that they stay as multicolor sparkles when you blend it out. So yeah, I've been using this one a lot, and I don't see myself stopping using it anytime soon. For earrings, I have a couple new pairs that I thought I might try. And for perfume, I want to use this one by Fleur that I picked up on, I believe it was the Sephora sale. I decided to not wear the lights and went with the Nutcracker earrings instead. This one is called Tangerine Boy, and it is so delicious. It's very zesty and orangey and kind of herbaceous, if that makes sense. And this is the finished look. This might be my favorite look I've ever done with this palette. I've never done a look I didn't like with this palette, but I love this, and I think I'm gonna have to do a 3 looks with this sometime because I really want to play with it some more. It is so good, and yeah, by far my favorite palette from Fantasy Cosmetica. So if you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching and being here, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.